The most powerful man in the world wrote about his troubles with foreign armies, extraordinary wealth, intrigue and sycophant, as well as all the other first world issues you can think of, from being the Emperor of Rome 2,000 years ago in a foreign language in Greek, never intending for it to be published. It should be completely unrelatable and incomprehensible to us. How could someone who attended a little-known school of ancient philosophy have created something that endures for centuries? Naturally, I'm referring about Marcus Rus's Meditations, the guy himself, and everything he could teach us. Although it would seem impossible for him to reach us, he is quite approachable and has a wealth of knowledge to impart, which is why I want to discuss what I have learned from Marcus Rus. When I first came across this book, which contains the musings of Marcus Aes, I was around 19 or 20 years old. Once more, it is an amazing historical record. The most powerful man in the world was writing notes to himself in the middle of the night in his palace tent on the front lines of the Roman army in battle, or occasionally, as he was seen to do in the Colosseum, as the gladiatorial games raged on below. Specifically, he was keeping meditations. This is one of the most important lessons he was teaching himself. He was being careful not to be Caesarified, not to be dyed purple, and not to be altered by his position as Emperor of Rome. All of us can be altered by the extremist success and adversity. Our circumstances can alter who we are, but Marcus's reality remained unchanged because his unrestricted power did not change the fact that philosophy had control over him. He declared, "I'm fighting to be the person that philosophy tried to make me." And who was? What teachings does Marcus Aurelius impart to us? That individual. Marcus Aurelius tells us to have courage in our lives, self-control, fairness, and discernment. These are the 4 Stoic virtues that Marcus frequently discusses. As a reminder, I have them permanently inked on my wrist. He says, "What an extraordinary thing indeed. If you ever find anything better than courage, discipline, justice, and wisdom, it must be even more amazing, but there isn't." He also said, "So what if they lie about you, curse you, or stab you with knives? What could possibly happen to you in life that would prevent you from acting with courage, justice, discipline, and wisdom?" Marcus Aurelius's core lesson is that everything is a chance to practice virtue. He famously said, "Everything is an opportunity to practice virtue. Book about the problem is the way." What he is saying is that every circumstance we encounter in life presents a chance to put one of those virtues into practice. For Marcus Aurelius, this is the most important lesson. Every circumstance presents a chance for excellence. You are suddenly made king, and you must be excellent, restrained, disciplined, good and decent. Suddenly, you are imprisoned on false charges. There is an economic crisis and a pestilence. Additionally, chances for virtue, bravery, wisdom, justice, and self-control. That's the fundamental lesson that Marcus imparts to us, and it really resonated with me as a child. Virtue is something we strive for, and that irritates. When this struck me as a teenager just starting my 20s, I simply didn't know that's what philosophy was about. I thought philosophy was abstract, and I thought philosophy was theoretical. Excellence is something we all want and need to embody everything we face in life. I initially thought it was these esoteric inquiries, but I believe that the notion that philosophy is something we strive to uphold, that it is an ideal and a tradition, is a very potent thing that I have learned. What duty demand do you have? Marcus Aurelius's writing style and his approach to self-accountability are well known. For example, he famously discusses how, when you wake up in the morning and want to stay in bed, he says, "Yeah, but what is your duty demand? Why you want to huddle under the covers and stay warm? That's not what you were put here to do." It's a beautiful book. No one will ever speak to you as directly, honestly, and vulnerably as Marcus does in Meditations, which is something I actually learned from him as a writer. In this instance, he is being extremely specific and expressing that posthumous fame doesn't matter, that being remembered by history doesn't matter, and yet here he developed something that's immensely universal and timeless. The timeliness of it makes it timeless. The personalness of it makes it universal. The reason meditation lasts and endures is because Marcus Aurelius is such a great writer and thinker that he doesn't care about impressing people, trends, fads, or sales. Instead, he dies of the plague in 180 AD, and as he states in the last pages, we can imagine him facing death courageously. Of course, we all want to live longer, he says, but I've only gotten through 3 acts, right? He's viewing his life as a play, and he acknowledges that the length of the play is fixed by the power that directed your creation and now directs your dissolution. It wasn't up to you. He then says, make your exit with grace, the same grace shown to you, Mark. Russ wasn't a philosopher with pen and ink. He wasn't a recluse. He didn't live in the ivory tower. He was a man of action. He led Rome through a plague, and when he died, so did the possibility that he would write any other books, but his meditations do survive. By the way, you can see that it's taped here, it's falling apart, and it contains 1,000,000 notes. The great thing about Marcus Aurelius is that you bring something to him and you take something new out every time the poet Heraclitus talks about, we never step in the same river twice. You're never the same person entering this book or exiting it, even though it remains the same, even though it hasn't been touched in more than 18 centuries. There are probably notes on every single page of this book, because I've read it over and over again. Marcus is there. He's a resource. He's a leader. He's an inspiration. If you haven't allowed him change your life, you're missing out if you want to keep your stoicism inspired.